Welcome everybody to Contractor Foreman time card video. Got a lot to cover in this video. Time cards touch a whole lot of different places in Contractor Foreman, so let's jump in and get going. Going to cover the basics first, and then kind of get into more of the meat and potatoes of it. When you're first coming into time cards, you've got a number of buttons up at the top. So over here, I can show or hide this list view. So I click here. That gives me a little bit more space to see everything. Command it, I got my list back. Got a search field here. This is a filter button, so I can set my range, or if I want to look for just one employee or just one project or a couple of projects, I can set that. Over here, this will, if I'm not at my dashboard, I just click that. That takes me back to my dashboard. Up here in the upper right, this is where you watch the video. Might have got here somewhere else, but when you're in time cards, this is a training video. This is make a suggestion, and we really do count on you folks' suggestions on making Contractor Foreman better. So those carry a lot of weight. Over here is the gear button. Every module, remember, every module in Contractor Foreman has this gear button. I'm going to click on it, but we don't have time to go over all of the options here, but you can just get an idea of all the different things that you can set. One of the things that I do want to point out is you always want to set this labor only time card cost codes to yes. What that's going to do is in the estimate, it'll sort out all the cost codes that are associated to the item type labor, and it will only show those labor cost codes in your time cards, therefore shortening the list. You might use 75 cost codes in an estimate. You don't want your employees looking at a list of 75 codes in the time card trying to guess the right one. So this will only show them cost code items that are listed to labor. So a number of them down here, you can just set clock in and out reminders, things like that. You can set to use tags here. Got the GPS tracking in another section. So lots of settings there. And don't worry about it if you don't know exactly how to set these. With Contractor Foreman, you can come back and do some of your settings a year later if you want to change something. So before we jump into an actual time card, I want to touch base on estimates really quick. You're probably thinking, why are we going back to estimate? Well, it's because the labor type in an estimate. I'm going to open up this line item. So got an item name here. We've said that it's labor, and it's very, very important that when we come down here to our quantity, cost, and unit, that we put in the actual hours there, and then the hourly cost, and of course you have your markup. It will not work if I say lump sum and I have $250 lump sum of labor, because the estimate is going to create a labor budget, and the system will think that you have 1 hour at $250 for that cost code. So then when somebody clocks into that cost code and says, I did 8 hours, it's going to go 8 hours times 250. So you always want to put your actual hours in there, your hourly rate, and you'll be good to go. So jumping back to our time cards, we'll just briefly go through the dashboard real quick, but you got a calendar here and we can set the date range for what we want to see on time cards. You've got time card stats here. Look at that by different ways. You're going to show when people have days coming up, time off requests, and then we'll be able to look at the time spent on current projects. You'll have a list of who's clocked in here. There's a map view, so when people are clocked in, you'll see the pin on the map of where they are. And then down here, you got a detailed activity log. I can go current week timesheets or detailed activity. So let's jump into an actual time card here. This is the most common. This is for individual time cards. This is what's most commonly used out in the field on the phone app. So start a time card. Very simple for your folks to do. Going to go over, select the project. So what job am I on? I'm on that job. Smith Remodeling. Service tickets. I'll jump over there shortly, but you can clock into a service ticket. So if you're using service tickets, you can clock into the service ticket. And there I would just select the service ticket. And it may have a project associated to it as well, but maybe not. So I can clock into a service ticket there. I'm going to select the cost code. What am I doing on that job? I'm going to be working on cabinets. Start my day. And I'm going to hit start. Start my card. So you can see my card is started. Now, somebody's going to take a break. Very simple. I just hit my pause button. Pause. Take a break. Yes, I want to. And the system is going to update that. Rob Bruce took a break. Pin on the map. That's a GPS. Then maybe they had to change cost codes. They're not doing cabinets anymore. I'm going to switch to a different task. So I'm not doing cost codes anymore. So I can select that there, or I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to do a new job. I'm just jumping over to a whole nother project here. I'm going to go kitchen upgrade. I'm going to say apply. Now, see, time card is on break. So I had it on break, and we see break over here. So I get this message because it's not going to resume the time card because it said I was on break. How could I go to another job or change a cost code if I was actually on a break? So I'm going to say no here. And we're going to put that back under resume manually. I'm going to hit resume, say yes. And there we go. Selected that. But now I am on that job, and now I do need to change the cost code because a new job probably not going to be on the same cost code. So that's going to show me cost codes for the new job. I'm going to hit apply, and it tracks what I did every time, pin on the map. End of the day, I'm just going to stop my time card. It's going to say stop. Now, these are some options. You can turn this on or off. You can ask, they have to answer the question, did I have an injury today? If they say yes, then they have to fill out a note, and then it will automatically start an OSHA incident report for you. If you don't need it, great, delete it later, but it's better to have it than not have it, forget to do it. So I'll say no here. And then there's a setting where you can let them verify time or not, or an admin will do it. So if they're going to verify their time, they'll just say yes or no. Then they can write another note and clock out. The other thing with the time cards, we're doing our time tracking GPS-wise up here, but the system will also track their time every 30 minutes, regardless of what happens up here. So every 30 minutes, it's going to put a timestamp and a little pin on the map for where they were. And down here, you just got an activity button. Didn't really have any activities there. Much on the card, so it's going to be blank. And now I'm done with that card. So pretty simple. Very easy to train employees on. We're going to jump into the crew card here. The crew card is one generally you've got a whole crew doing the same work. A lot of union shops use that, etc. We're going to pick our employees who's on our time card here. Grab a few before selected. I'm going to pick the project that's required. So we're just going to grab a random job here. I'm the supervisor, so plug my name in here, and then I'm going to select the cost code. And there we go. So now I'm going to clock everybody in. Just ask me to kind of confirm it. Let's say Scott got a flat tire on the way to the job. I can not clock him in here, so he's still there, going to be there, and I can clock him in later, but I can uncheck him, but I'll show you another method for that. And I'm going to say clock in. So there we go. Got everybody clocked in. Then I can modify somebody's time. So I could just go into that line for Scott because he was late, and I can just modify when he actually showed up. So there's the crew card, the crew sheet. Crew sheet is a lot like the time card, or the crew card, just more flexible. This is simply just like an Excel sheet almost. So I can check the date. I don't have to pick a project here, and I'll show you why in a second. So I'm going to leave that blank. So I want to get paid today, so I'm going to do add me. Then who am I tracking time for? Let's do a couple right now. Now on this type of time card, what I'm able to do, I can completely mix and match this, and I don't have to use my clock in or clock out. You can, and it's great to have, but I can just come over here and punch in my hours. How many hours did I work on that job? So I worked on that job 4 hours. This one, I should say. So I'm grabbing my project. So I worked on that job 4 days, 4 hours, and I did my drywall. And then what I can do, I can just go add me again, or I could have just add new entry and added somebody else, but because over here I worked 4 hours on another job. The other thing we have here is our defaults. I can say, well, hey, I had some travel time, or I did some maintenance at the shop, or general overhead, or just straight shop time. Maybe I worked in sales, service tickets, etc. So I'll just grab another job there, grab the kitchen upgrade, and I was doing that for 4 hours. So it's a very much mix and match. Um, it all does the job cost reporting, and then you have to select were you injured or not. So no and no. I can use tags, set those up, save my card, and got my card for the day. Didn't really fill anything out for those guys, but you saw how we did it there. Then we have the weekly sheet. Now, the weekly sheet is generally for office folks. Not always, but generally it is. Probably 80–90% of the time, people use this for the office staff. And we've got a number of options up here. I can select my week range and date range, select what employees I'm going to look at or have entering their time, etc. And then I can select a default project. I can show or not show a cost code field. And I'm simply then, what job was I on? I did select cost code field, so there it is. And select something. And then you're just going to fill in your hours for the days of the week. So that's what we call it, the weekly sheet. So there's your 4 different types of time cards. Like I say, that's the most common one used out in the field. That's usually for union type shops or just when everybody's doing generally the same thing. Crew sheet, the total mix and match, and the weekly sheet for the office folk. So now let's jump into how this shows up in other parts of the system, because they're going to show up, time cards show up on the daily logs. Everybody should be using daily logs. I'll just show you where they are in the menu there. There's daily logs. I've already got one pulled up here. And when I click on my daily log, I come over here to people, and I already filled this time card out. But there's my time under employee time cards. It just feeds automatically into the daily log. And what you can see is it'll break it out by how much time I spent on each cost code. So you're going to have a really nice detailed record of what everybody did on the job on that day. Like I always say, daily logs, daily reports, whatever it may be that you call them. You don't ever need them from a day or two ago. You always need them from a year ago when a problem arises. So that's why daily logs are so important. Somewhere other where's time cards show up is in the time card reports. So I'll drop it down, show you where this is. So I went over to reports, and down at the bottom, time card reports. Oops, didn't mean to close it on you there. So time card activity most popular. This is just the most flexible report. That's why we say it's the most popular. A lot of people use that one. We can go time card by employee, and then we can just print out our weekly sheets. Now, as you say, I'll just use this as an example. This is not just a single canned report when I click on any view button in Contractor Foreman. So when I click my view button, what I get is what I call a whole parameter box of how do I want to run that report. And what it is once you kind of figure this out, when you get your settings set in this report, it remembers what your last settings were. So you're not constantly resetting this every single time you want to run your report. And you can add in things like optional columns. You can choose what different labor rate you're going to use: wage rate, billing rate, burden rate. Go over those shortly in just a minute. So easy to run reports. Close this out. Another place that in a sense, time cards show up is, remember what I was saying about the estimate, where you can enter into the estimate. Then when the estimate is approved, it creates a labor budget. And then when you're punching in those hours, one of the reasons we do that is so we can have reports such as this one, the budget versus actual labor report. Very, very important report. I'm in a project here. Point that out where I am, project and projects, and you go into the report tab and it's in the drop down there. So this is tracking what was our original budget of our labor. So hours budgeted, that came from the estimate. Our total cost came from the estimate. And then the system is constantly looking at the time cards and tracking what is our actual hours, total cost, and over under. So I could look at this at noon and at the end of the day and keep a really close eye on where my labor is at. So I can catch a problem before it becomes a problem. Now I'm going to jump into some of the couple of settings here real quick, and I've gone over to settings. So where I went was settings and settings, and then I clicked on roles here. I've already got the tab open, so I'm just going to jump right over there. And for time cards, the most common way to set your time cards is full access own data. Now, what that's going to mean is that when employees go in to do their time cards, they're going to have full access to their time cards, but they're only going to see their own data. And then remember, I had that little checkbox, allow employee to modify the time card. If I uncheck that, the employee cannot modify their time card, and they'll have to call the office and have a supervisor do it for them. If you remember a minute ago, we were in the reports and we had the labor rate. We have wage rate, billing rate, and burden rate. Well, where you can enter that, I'm in the directory and in an employee record. So I'd gone into directory and then clicked on my employees. And here's the fields for that. So it's in the employees record. So there's my wage, my billing, and my burden rate. So you enter your rates in here. And then as you run your reports, you can select which ones, which wage rates, or you can run also the estimated rate on many of the reports. And so here we are back at the dashboard, the main module for time cards and the dashboard for that. Um, that's about it on the video. So there you go. We've got very powerful, easy to use, detailed time cards to help you with getting your labor costs under control and keeping an eye on them. Thanks, everybody. I want you to have a wonderful day. Thanks again.